Okay, so in this lesson, we're going to talk about rapid learning. I mentioned that remedial sessions are a dimension of rapid learning, and when you want to work with underachieving students, you can either empower them or you can take them through remedial sessions. There are two types of remedial sessions. We have the typical remedial session, or the what we call the traditional remedial sessions, and we also have the rapid remedial session. So each of these remedial sessions has just 11 steps. As we move on, we are going to understand what I'm trying to say. And remedial sessions are designed to help students to master two skills. The first one is cognitive efficiency, and the second one is quick comprehension. Learning is very, very important. In fact, it's one of those important approach to learning that has been used in many sectors, like in the medical schools, in military school, in many places. Many of these places we just don't know that they use them. So when students go through rapid learning, it helps to build their quick comprehension skills. They are able to quickly comprehend, meaning they are able to identify key concepts. They are able to recall important information, and they are able to interpret the meaning of concepts or ideas or information, as the case may be. So there are many. So cognitive efficiency is described as the capacity of the brain to support quick comprehension without feeling overworked, or without feeling overwhelmed, or without feeling stressed. When students learn with rapid learning, they can master new concepts faster than their peers, and it helps to make these students lifelong learners. You see, when students know that there's a way that they can learn a particular information faster, it kind of makes them want to learn more. So it can help them to adapt to a new class, acquire new skills in a shorter time, so that they can have extra time for their own leisure activities or personal interests, personal pursuits, or other things that they want to do. And this can lead to greater confidence, and less stress. In fact, rapid learning is very, very useful in reversing students underachievement, because it takes the stress off them. It keeps them motivated, and it can help in improving their outlook to learning generally. So there are some rapid learning principles. Rapid learning principles are designed to foster the acquisition of knowledge, and development of skills faster and efficiently. First one is active learning. Active learning is at the core of rapid learning because it promotes understanding and retention. You see, when a student is actively learning, he is likely to learn quicker and efficiently. And that principle of rapid learning is relevance and clear objective. In rapid learning, when you teach them things that are relevant to them, it helps them to learn faster and efficiently. When you avoid unnecessary details, when you avoid distractions, when you prioritize essential information, students are more likely to learn quickly and efficiently. We also have chunking. In rapid learning, complex informations are broken into smaller, manageable chunks. In rapid learning, because we are trying to manage the cognitive resources that the students are using, we tend to break complex information into smaller, manageable chunks, so that they can easily comprehend, remember, and use that same information. In rapid learning also, we have what is called spaced repetition. Spaced repetition is very important in rapid learning. In rapid learning, students review and revisit material at intervals to maintain long-term retention and understanding. In rapid learning, as a rule, we bring back previously learned information or topics. We bring it back intentionally so that they periodically review this information so that they can retain it and be able to remember it over a period of time. Also, we have what is called metacognition. In rapid learning, we foster metacognition. Metacognition meaning that we help students to think about their learning process or assess their own understanding of what they learn. The idea is that when students are able to assess how they learn or what they learn or the manner in which they learn, it tends to help them have this self-awareness and understanding of their own their own abilities. And the more a student is able to understand himself, the more the chances that the student will know what to do in order for him to learn quickly and efficiently. In rapid learning also, we also use variety of learning styles. Students are taught based on their learning styles and what works for them. Rapid learning is such that we consider the variety of learning styles that students have. We don't just bombard them with things without considering their learning style. And also another principle in rapid learning is feedback. In rapid learning, we give feedback almost all the time. Feedback from peers, instructors, self-assessments, feedback from all opportunities that we get is important so that students can reflect on their performance and make adjustments to improve their learning. Also, in rapid learning, collaboration is very important. In rapid learning, collaboration with parents, with the students themselves, with their peers, with other teachers, with the school authorities, it's very, very important because we believe that it enhances the learning experience. So these principles, when applied systematically and flexibly, can help learners achieve rapid and effective learning outcomes in a variety of settings, whether it's in terms of their academics or their personal development or skill and talent discovery and so on. So the idea is that you're supposed to create your own custom rapid learning approach. All of these principles have where you can apply them. So you can pick the principles that are related to what you're trying to do at the moment and see how you can use that principle to help your students learn faster and efficiently. So there's something we call differentiated instruction. You see, many times because of the way rapid learning is designed to personalize the instruction that we give students. I mentioned earlier that learning styles are important. We consider a student's specific need and learning style before we give them information or before we try to teach them things using rapid learning. So differentiated instruction is one way that you can tailor instruction to each student's needs, learning styles and strengths. So you can tailor the student, you can tailor the content, you can tailor the resources, you can tailor the processes, you can tailor even the space that you use in teaching each student. So many times when we use differentiated instruction, it can help or foster rapid learning. So here is how we use differentiated instructions in rapid learning. We use what is called tiers of instruction, TIERS of instructions. Tiers of instruction is an instructional practice of separating students into groups based on their skill level and then modifying the content for each group based on their individual level of understanding. Is when it's like having students in groups. Each group consists of students who have the same capabilities. So when you design their resources or their content or their space for which they will use to learn what you are trying to teach them, it will be relevant to their level of understanding. So there are 3 tiers of instruction according to the response to intervention system, or what we call the RTI. You see, we have 3 of them. The first one is all classroom instruction. Here you provide a a direct instruction to everybody. They are, all of them are in groups, quite alright. But when you teach them all at once. That's the whole classroom instruction. Everybody, you give them a direct instruction at once. You now bring together those who didn't get the whole classroom instruction, who didn't get the first instruction. Then you tell them the second time. Then in the third one, we call it intensive intervention. Here, there's still some students that do not understand what you said the second time. Then take them a third time to say it in another format or style. So that's just it about tiers of instruction. The idea is just that you must recognize that students do not process information at the same speed. There's some students, like you mentioned earlier when we were talking about underachievement, that some students grasp this thing better than others. Some students have higher motivation, and because of that motivation, they are able to grasp more information than others. And some students have the ability, so they are, because of that ability, they are able to grasp information more than others. So you have to consider this. The idea is just that using these tiers of instruction, you recognize that you may need to provide the first instruction to all of them. At the same time, you must understand that all of them will not get that first instruction that you give them. You must make arrangements to attend to the small group of those who will not understand, and then another set out of that small group who will need an intensive intervention. So you can incorporate this into a single class. When you teach them something, you incorporate that, or you can work it out anyhow. But the idea is just accept that many of these students would need a second or a third intervention, and this also boils down to their sitting arrangement. Many times in schools, even, you find out that students just sit however they like. Some of the time we just pair them with their friends, we pair them with their enemies, we pair them with, we just put them anyhow, because we think that that's okay. But the idea is that sitting arrangement can really contribute to how well the students learn faster and efficiently. So we can group them based on their similarity or their level of understanding. Have energy drainers sit down together, passionate sit down together, hidden gems sit down together, or superstars sit down together. Or you can just know that the idea is, let like minds sit down together. You get, because they can help themselves and grow together. And the thing is that once a particular student is no longer fit into that current group, you are supposed to change the group of that student. For instance, if a student is a passionate for, and you group him with other passionate, once student becomes a superstar, you should remove him from that group and put him in a group with superstars. This can further encourage him and make things easier for you as well. So there are different strategies, techniques, and methods that we use in foster quick comprehension or cognitive efficiency. At times, some of these techniques, strategies, and methods do both. They foster both quick comprehension and and cognitive efficiency. So the first one I'm going to talk about is what we call active learning. Active learning is actually a strategy that emphasizes learner engagement, participation, and interaction instead of passively receiving information, such as through lectures or through reading. They are doing the theory and the practical at the same time, so it helps them to understand faster. Or you ask them to contribute to a discussion on a topic, or you ask them to apply their knowledge on a particular topic to to solve problems in that topic, or you organize a quiz or a debate on specific topics or issues, such that it can encourage critical thinking and they can communicate with one another, interact with one another, or even you can ask them to teach their peers. The idea is that active learning is about activity. It's not about passive. The student is doing the work. The student is engaged. The student's interest is important in active learning. So there are a lot of things can happen in a typical active learning setting. You can have learners to assume roles and act out scenarios relevant to the subject matter, so that it can help them have a deeper understanding of the subject that you are trying to teach. So, such as maybe you have them act a role, or act a drama, to express what was learned, say previously or something like that. And you can also present them with complex problems or challenges and have them solve it, through active participation. Maybe you put them in groups and then they rub minds to get. The idea is their brain, their body, their spirit is with you. Unlike passive learning where the child's mind may be somewhere else. You can also use quizzes, you can also use questions, you can also use anything, so long as it keeps them engaged during the class and it helps them to interact with their peers. So during a classroom setting, many schools prefer that students are quiet. Well, it's just for the teacher's good, but if you want to consider the students good, it's better that they are engaging themselves in conversations, they are talking, they are interacting with their peers, and so on. They are generating ideas or solutions or brainstorming ideas, and all of these things. It really works well in rapid learning. We can also have them go through what is called think, pair, share. Think, pair, share is where you have the student think about a topic on his own, or you research a topic on his own. Then you can come and discuss it with a partner. You assign the partner to him, then discuss it with your partner, and then both partners come to share their idea with the entire class. So it's called think, pair, share. You can also do what is called the jigsaw method, where you set up a jigsaw activities where students are divided into groups, with each group studying a specific aspect of the topic. Then the students each share their own expertise. It's like assigning a topic to each group, and then the students master the topic, and then they come and share their own topic with other people, other groups. Those ones to share their own topic. Before you know it, they mastered that topic more than they would have mastered it if you use a passive way of teaching them that same information. So in an after school program center, you should focus on active learning more than passive learning. You should avoid doing all of the talking while they listen. Get them out on the field, get them out, get them working. Your role should shift from being a source of information to the role of a facilitator, a guide, and a mentor. Your primary focus should be to create an environment that allows them to be fully engaged, that helps them exercise their critical thinking skills, and provide opportunities for them to actively participate and interact with their peers. So another thing we use in rapid learning, another technique that we use in rapid learning is feedback. Feedback involves seeking input, evaluating performances, and making improvements, based on the feedback that was provided. When you provide feedback, the students can see where they made a mistake and then try and improve. The use of feedback in rapid learning is very, very important. You use it to gauge a student's performance, strengths and areas for improvement. You use it to gauge the gaps in their learning. We talked about learning gaps. Use feedback to gauge how wide a learning gap is, and so on. So you can use it to identify patterns and recurring behaviors, both negative and positive, in your learners. Feedback can lead to self-adjustment. feedback can help students adjust their ways, adjust their style or adjust their understanding of information. So you can point out what works and what doesn't, and can lead to them setting new goals and objectives, and becoming more aware of their strengths and weaknesses. Another technique that we also use, or strategy or method in rapid learning, is what we call effective note taking. Effective note taking is, as the name suggests, effective. It's not just about taking notes, it is about taking notes effectively. You want to help the students to effectively take notes. They shouldn't just be writing notes, it has to be notes that is effective. You can help them capture key information, so that it can organize their thoughts and enhance their understanding and retention of material. Effective note taking is beneficial for learners, say in a lecture situation, or when they are reading on their own, or when they are, even in an active learning situation. As they actively learn, they can take notes. It's easy for them to take notes when they know what is important. So effective note taking contributes greatly to rapid learning because it requires active listening or active participation. If a student is not actively participating in what you are teaching him, you won't be able to take notes. So it really aids active learning too, and it forces the students to learn to select what is important. The most important information in what you are teaching, the student is able to grasp it, and it also contributes to quick comprehension. The process of choosing what to note down compels learners to identify the core concepts and ideas, and this promotes efficient learning. There's lots of information because they are able to, jot down what is most important, and it also keeps them organized. It helps them build organization skills, and it aids comprehension and retention, and it encourages learners to process information at a deeper level. In fact, effective note taking can really help you after school program center. You can teach students from a young age how to take notes, how to record important information. So you are taking them through a class. They can you can force them to carefully listen to what you are saying, so that they can pick the most important information. The more they're able to do that, the more you see that they get better and are able to, use that same skill in their school and in other areas of life. It can also foster peer collaboration, as sharing notes and discussing them with their peers can enhance understanding. Effective note taking is very, very important. It can help students become organized. It can, help them understand complex concepts and help them retain information quickly, ultimately leading to quicker and more efficient learning outcomes. We also use what is called chunking as a strategy or as a technique. Chunking can be used as a strategy or as a technique. It involves breaking down information into small, more manageable chunks. When you are trying to teach a student a lot of things, perhaps maybe your plan involves teaching him so many things. Don't try and start by bombarding him with everything. Just put them in little chunks, and then work on these chunks one after the other. This is particularly effective because it helps learners process and remember complex information more efficiently. When these learners encounter a large amount of information, they can use chunking to group related information together. For example, they might group numbers, they might group terms, they might group dates, they might group figures, and so on, based on their similarities and patterns. Chunking also reduces cognitive load, meaning their brains, the resources that the brain uses, as the brain has a capacity to monitor the resources that it is using. So it enhances memory when you are able to get students to chunk, to break down complex information into smaller chunks. it can enhance their memory. For instance, you taught them a topic that is big, and you tell them to break it down into simple, you know, into simple, or use their own language or their own voice to explain a complex information. It tends to help them a lot. It does well to help them because it enhances their memory, it improves their comprehension, as they're able to remember these chunks of information more easily than, when the information is so big. For instance, you want to teach them history and you have a lot of dates and all those things. Just let them chunk all of these dates into, groups, say by their patterns or similarities, and then learn those things by the groups. Before you know it, they would have learnt it faster and efficiently, and they'll easily recall information because they were able to group it and so on. So the speed with which they learn things when they chunk, the speed with which they learn complex information when they chunk them is very, very good, because it helps them become efficient. And when studying, they can focus on one chunk at a time, working on understanding, memorization. They can apply that chunk before going to the next one. It's really, really a good thing to teach students how to chunk, and they can it can really do a lot of good for you as an after school service center, when your students are able to chunk information. We also have spaced repetition. It's a strategy, and it involves reviewing and revisiting information at spaced intervals over time. This technique is designed to optimize memory retention. So when you teach your students in your after school program center to use spaced repetition, it can really help them a lot. What this means is that they would easily be able to review information on their own, even at their own, during their own study time, because they understand the essence. Spaced repetition is very, very effective, especially for subjects that require strong recall over an extended period of time. Say when you're learning a new language, or historical dates, or scientific facts, and so on, or even big data, like you learn in programming, or you learn in medical school, all those things like that. So by spacing out how you review these things, it can help to retain that information very well. For instance, if they learn a chunk of information today, they get to review it next tomorrow, they get to review it next week, they get to read next month, they get to read 2 months time. By the time they do that for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, you realize that they've mastered the concept, instead of reviewing it every day or reading it every day. You understand? So spaced repetition is very, very good. As we move on, I'm going to show you in practice, but just need you to know that spaced repetition is one of those strategies that we use in rapid learning, and it fosters quick comprehension and cognitive efficiency. It is based on the psychological principle that the best way to retain information in memory is to review it multiple times, with each of these review occurring at increasing intervals. During each spaced repetition sessions, learners actively recall and review the information from memory. This practice strengthens memory recall pathways and deepens understanding. It's the same information that they're going to keep reviewing, and it is usually information that is tough to recall or tough to understand, and so on. So they review the same information. They review it intentionally like that over a period of time. You realize that they will get the hang of it, and it will be easy. In rapid learning, you understand that learning can be difficult at times. You understand that some data can be so difficult to get to understand. So we give room for students to review over and over again, and we do this with spaced repetition. By to apply spaced repetition, learners start by identifying the key concepts or ideas or content that you want to learn or remember. Then they create a schedule, for those spaced repetition reviews. And during each review session, they actively recall for memory, of course, and they review the material. They can also include asking questions, explaining concepts, or solving problems related to the content, or to the information that they are trying to review. So the interval between the review sessions should gradually increase. For example, they can review the material after 1 day, and after 3 days, then after 1 week, then after 1 month, and so on. We also have what is called interleaved practice. Interleaved practice is a strategy that involves mixing and practicing different topics or concepts during a single study or practice session. You see, many times when students practice for exams, for instance, they practice maths separately, they practice English separately, they practice social studies separately, they practice civic education separately. In interleaved practice, they practice all the subjects at once, or maybe a few subjects at once. The idea is that as your brain is taxed to go from maths to English to civic to social studies, it takes a lot of, you would think it takes a lot of effort, but rather it's building the muscles, technically, of the brain to be better, at recalling information. So interleaved practice can really help in your after school service center. And the fact that you're not a school, you are a after school service center that is looking to get the students better, that is looking to engage the students so that they can become better than they really are. Interleaved practice can really help because it can make the students much better than they would have been if they did not use interleaved practice. This approach contrasts with what we call block practice, where a learner focuses on one topic at a time. So it is very, very good, and it has several benefits because it works as a rapid learning strategy. It enhances learning by requiring students to switch between different topics or concepts or skills within a single study session. This can challenge their cognitive flexibility and problem solving skills. Interleaved practice is very, very good. Very, very good. Very, very good. So, and it can also let them see the connections between different topics, and it can apply what they have learned in a more transferable manner. In fact, it can promote their problem solving skills and help them apply their knowledge to various concepts. It also lets them stay engaged, and the chance of cramming is reduced. You should try interleaved practice. Honestly, it's really a good one, and it fosters rapid learning. We also have what we call active recall. Active recall is different from active learning. Active recall is a powerful learning strategy that involves actively and intentionally retrieving information from memory rather than simply rereading or reviewing the information. It is highly effective for promoting memory retention, enhancing understanding, and accelerating the learning process. It requires learners to actively retrieve information from their memory by answering questions, explaining concepts, or solving problems related to the material they are learning. See, when you teach students these things, perhaps you taught them a topic yesterday and they come today, ask them to recap what you said from their head. Not from reading from the textbook or whatever it is that they recorded the idea from their brain. It assists their brain so that their brain is much able to strengthen its neural pathways, and make it easy to retrieve that information in the future. So their brain is taxed. You see, in rapid learning, we tax the brain, we teach the brain how to do things. We set the brain up to succeed. We set the brain up to recall information. We set the brain up to recognize important information, and we set the brain up to swiftly process information. So instead of passively reviewing whatever it is that you are teaching them, they can just recall what they know and all that. So active recall is a versatile and effective strategy that can be applied to a wide range of subjects, and it is used to accelerate learning process and improve long-term retention. We also have what is called mnemonic devices. When students, for example, want to learn the first 20 elements, you don't just write first 20 elements for them: hydrogen, helium, no, lithium, beryllium. No, you can make it into a song, and all they have to do is learn the song, and before you know it, they can review that song over a period of time, and then they've mastered that. So your job is not like what the school does. Your job is an after school service program. Your job is designed to help your own students learn faster than his peers. In a typical school, they're not about helping these students learn faster. Now, if students in your after school program center learn faster than their peers in the same class in their school, then before you know it, they will do well than those peers of theirs. So that's just the idea. Mnemonic devices, they can be in forms of acronyms, in forms of rhymes, in forms of visual clues, and so on, cues rather, and so on. So mnemonic devices or mnemonics can be used to simplify complex or abstract information through hooks or cues, and can make it easier to remember this complex or abstract information. When learners encounter the cue, it triggers their memory to remember that information. Let me give you an instance. These songs that are popular these days, the moment you hear the beginning of the song, maybe the beat of the song, you just know that song. So that is what mnemonic devices does, and that is even one of those reasons why many of these raining songs in town, even if you're not listening to it actively, you tend to remember it, because they are designed to have this first few seconds memorable. The moment you hear the first few seconds, you remember the remaining of the song, or you recall what song it is. You understand? So mnemonic devices can really do a lot of good for you as an after school service program center. So you can teach your students important concepts through mnemonics. For instance, the student comes back from school and informs you that they taught him or her the first 20 elements, without a mnemonic or anything for them to easily remember. And you can teach that student mnemonic. Then, funny enough, maybe after 2 days, the child goes to class and is giving the teacher gives them the test and say, write the first 20 elements. I'm sure your student is going to be able to do that faster than other students would. That's even if those ones can do it. You understand? Those ones may be taking their time to remember to practice those first 20 elements, while your own student has already mastered it because he has mastered that. So all he has to do is just recall the song and then begin to write down each of those things. And similarly in exams too, that is what would happen. So mnemonic devices are very, very good, and you can use them in your after school program center. We also have what we call visual and auditory learning. These are they are learning styles. These are where we consider people's learning styles and preferences in determining how we teach them. For example, people who have a visual learning style, they can process information most effectively through visuals such as images, diagrams, charts, and written text. Auditory learners on the other hand, they can process information most effectively through hearing and listening. So in rapid learning, we consider all of these things. At times we even mix it, because we realize that many of these students that have this visual learning style, they also have auditory learning style, just that it may be less than the visual. So they tend to mix it, but in different proportions. So we kind of have instances where we combine visual and learning styles together, so that we provide situations where the same student goes through a visual and a auditory learning style kind of thing, such that at the end of the day, whichever one works with his brain more would be useful. incorporate that. So just look for a way to merge the two together when you teach your students. Consider the fact that many students are not entirely auditory, they're not entirely visual. That just look for a way to merge it together, so that at the end of the day, whoever is visual will pick his own, whoever is auditory will pick his own. And if a person is both, then no problem, they can also do that. We also use what is called gamification. Gamification is a rapid learning strategy that involves incorporating games or game elements into learning, to engage learners. It enhances motivation, it keeps them engaged, and it promotes active learning. For instance, if you are learning something via a game, you can imagine they'll be so excited, they'll be so interested, they'll be so engaged, and at the end of the day, they will still learn what you're trying to teach them. So gamification is very important in rapid learning. We try to keep the students engaged, we try to help them understand things faster, and games are a way to do that. So you can look out for games, say apps that you can use to teach your students things that they ordinarily may not use in school. In schools, many schools, they'll not even let them bring a phone, not talk of to use a game. But in your after school program center, you should incorporate all of these things that are very different from what they do in school will really help you. And one of them is the use of games to learn important information. We also use what is called homework. Homework is very, very popular, but homework is a rapid learning method. It's a method of rapid learning that is used to reinforce and practice what was taught or what one has learned previously. It complements other rapid learning strategies, techniques, and methods, and because it consolidates all of those things. Because if a student learns something and is not able to practice or reinforce what he has learned, then something's wrong. Something's eventually going to be wrong somewhere. You just know that he has learned it, but may not be able to recall it. So homework is very, very good. So you can, in your after school service program center, you should incorporate homeworks a lot. You should give them homeworks a lot, and it should be basically about helping them to practice what they already know. You understand? Many schools, they'll give them homeworks on things that they've not taught them. That's not what your own should be. It should be about helping them practice what you already taught them, so that they can easily recall and you can reinforce what they learned. We also have what is called immediate practice. Immediate practice is also referred to as immediate application. It is a rapid learning method that involves applying newly acquired information or knowledge right after learning them. If you teach them now and they begin to apply it now, that's what it means. It's just like taking them through a class now, and then you now give them a classwork. They practice immediately what you teach them. So it is an effective way of reinforcing learning and enhancing retention. So in your after school service program, one of those ways that you can foster rapid learning is to immediately give them a classwork, or an immediate practice, as we call it in rapid learning. So give them these things so that they can immediately practice what they learned, and it will help you to see if they truly understood what you are saying, and you will know how well you can get them to redirect their steps in the event that they did not learn what you taught them very well. We also use what is called summary and recap. In rapid learning, we use summary and recap a lot. When you teach them something, don't assume that they already know. At the end of the day, just recap. Just have a recap. Mention the key points again. Summarize everything, and it can really help because it can help them identify what's important. That's fostering quick comprehension, and it can also contribute to cognitive efficiency. So it is very important because it reinforces understanding and retention of material. Also, in rapid learning, we consider collaboration with parents and other stakeholders very important. Don't expect to start something on your own. Look for people that can join you on it. For instance, if you're trying to get a student to do better than you would ordinarily have done, get the parents involved too. Say you want to give the child extra homework. Maybe you've been giving the child maybe 2-3 homeworks, and you want to begin to give him 5 homeworks because you want him to close a particular learning gap, say in 1 week, because of an exam that he's going to be having in 2 weeks, and you're going to be giving him 5 homeworks. If you involve the parent, then it's likely that he will finish that kind of homework. But if you didn't involve the parents, maybe he's tired today, you can just sleep and do one, and then the next day he doesn't feel like doing anything. You may not even do anything, or you may just do just the minimum. But when you involve the parents, both of you can agree that you're going to be on the child's neck and you complete the. So collaboration is just important in rapid learning. You don't expect that that you would get the child to commit if you don't have other people on his neck. So by working together, educators, parents, and other stakeholders can create a more supportive and enriching learning environment for these learners. It's important to note that this is very, very important. So I really suggest that in all of your dealings with students who are, through rapid learning and every other thing that you do at the after school program center, you should consider how you are going to collaborate with their parents. It can really, really, really help you out. So this is rapid learning. Rapid learning, that's just it. But there are over 100 techniques, strategies, and methods that are applicable in rapid learning. So in the uh, next week work, we are going to practice these things together. I just want to give you a background of rapid learning so that you can understand what I'm saying whenever I talk about rapid learning. I really am a fan of rapid learning. I'm an instructor of rapid learning on Allison. So it's really one topic that I get excited talking about. So see you in the next lesson.